Okay, let's just jump right in. In 1219, the world ended. I mean, for millions of people living on the Iranian plateau, it wasn't just a bad year, their world, it was over. And when you hear a quote like that, you might think it's poetry, but it's not. This is a real historical account of the Mongol invasion. Think about that for a second. First, so much bloodshed the rivers literally ran red. And then, the libraries. So many books destroyed that the ink turned those same rivers black. We're talking about a total, complete erasure.
So that brings us to the core question here, what we're calling the liquid fortress. How? How do you survive that? I mean, how does a whole civilization, a culture, a people, survive the absolute end of their world? When everything is ash, what's even left?
All right, to even begin to answer that, we first have to wrap our heads around just how big this problem was. Let's start with what's called the Great Blackening, which is exactly what it sounds like, a total system collapse.
Now, the term for this it's just fascinating. It's called the Great Nigredo. This is an old alchemical term. It means the blackening, and it was the very first stage of transformation. But in this context, it means hitting rock bottom. It's the absolute zero point of history. It's when the hardware of a civilization, we're talking cities, governments, people, is just gone, wiped out.
So you've got this incredible clash of forces, right? On one side, you have the Mongol strategy, which was pure chaos, maximum entropy. Their goal wasn't just to conquer, it was to unmake everything. And on the other side, the Persian predicament. Their hardware was toast. The only move they had left was to retreat completely into their software, their stories, their rituals, their culture. And that brings us right back to the big question, doesn't it? It's easy to say, oh, just retreat to your software, but what does that actually mean? What does that look like on the ground when every single thing you can touch is just gone? How do you hold on to who you are?
Well, the first part of the answer is found in a surprising place, the fortress of the home. And the key idea here is something called metabolic coherence.
Just imagine it for a second. The armies are gone, the city walls are breached, the public square, the very heart of civic life, is now a slaughterhouse. So what do? The whole center of gravity for the culture had to shift. The only safe, sovereign territory left was the private home, the domain of the family. And this is where that idea of metabolic coherence clicks into place. It's all about keeping cultural order alive through the simple rituals of the kitchen. Think about it. Making a really complex traditional dish, it takes hours, right? It has steps. It has structure. Now, in a world that has descended into total chaos, that slow, careful process, that's not just cooking anymore. It's an act of resistance. It's you creating a tiny, perfect pocket of order when the entire universe outside is screaming chaos.
Okay, so from the kitchen, let's move into the living room, so to speak, because there's another everyday object in the home that became an incredible piece of survival tech. We're talking about the portable garden. And yeah, it's all about how a simple rug can basically become a map of the entire universe.
You have to understand, a Persian rug isn't just a piece of furniture to them. It's a piece of technology. It's a portable sanctuary. Think about it. It's this little field of high coherence, of deep order, that you can literally roll out anywhere, even in the middle of a bombed-out city.
And if you know how to read it, the rug is basically a blueprint for a safe and ordered world. Let's break it down. First, you've got the border. That's the law. It creates a safe, contained space. Then, inside that, you have the field. That's the garden. This beautiful, lush, symmetrical world. And right there in the middle, you have the medallion. That's the source. The unifying eye of God, the center of everything. It's a complete cosmos right there on your floor.
And what's really amazing? The very act of making one of these taught a profound lesson. They call it knotted logic. It's basically an algorithm for resilience. It taught a people whose kings and armies had totally failed them that real, lasting order isn't something a king gives you. It's something you build yourself with your own two hands, knot by knot.
So we found survival in the kitchen, and we found it on the floor. But maybe the most powerful tool of all, the thing that lets you actually reboot the entire cultural operating system, is a story, a myth. And that brings us to the apron and the flag.
So deep in the Persian national epic, there's this villain. His name is Zahak, and he is the stuff of nightmares. He's a tyrant who has these snakes growing out of his shoulders, and the only way to pacify them is to feed them the brains of the youth, every single day. I mean, it's a perfect, horrifying metaphor for a parasitic state, right? A government that literally consumes its own future just to stay alive.
So how in the world do you fight something like that? Well, the first move isn't what you'd expect. It's not a big, heroic battle. It's something called the Nursery Protocol. It's a yin strategy. The mother of the hero, the future king, a woman named Faranak, she doesn't pick up a sword. She hides her son. She takes the seed of the future and removes it from the toxic present to keep it safe. It's all about preservation, not confrontation.
And when the revolution finally does spark, it doesn't start with some prince in shining armor, nope. It starts with a blacksmith, a guy named Kaveh. After the tyrant takes his last son, he has nothing left to lose. He storms the palace, but what he uses for a flag of rebellion, it's not some royal banner. He just takes off his dirty leatherwork apron, hoists it up on a spear, and that becomes the symbol of the uprising.
I mean, the symbolism here is just so powerful you can't miss it. On one side, you've got the crown. It stands for top-down power, the big lie of the tyrant. And on the other side, the apron. It stands for bottom-up will, the simple truth of the worker. The myth is encoding this incredibly radical idea that real legitimacy, real power, comes from the blacksmith's forge, not the king's throne.
Okay, so let's boil this all down. What are the big takeaways here? First, hardware is fragile. Cities, armies, governments, they can all break. But software, your myths, your rituals, your stories, that stuff is fluid, it's resilient. Survival, when everything collapses, means becoming intangible. It means realizing that your own home can be a fortress, and it means understanding that sometimes a simple worker's apron can be way more powerful than a crown.
And that really just leaves us with one final big question to think about. We've just walked through how one culture managed to survive by falling back on its intangible core. So let's turn that on ourselves. If the hardware of our world failed, our institutions, our economy, our technology, what's our software? What are the stories and rituals we would cling to when everything else is gone?